All right, how's it going, everyone? This is day 5 of reviewing and exploring Nightshades. Let's get right into it. I hope you're all having a good morning or afternoon or evening, whatever time it is there. We are beginning with a section about H.P. Lovecraft. I'm gonna grab my tea really quickly. Okay. Alrighty. Sorry, bookshelf. You've supported me in more ways than one. Now you support my back. Okay. Let's get started. H.P. Lovecraft was by no means the only author who sensed and manifested the Ancient Ones. You can find them in plenty of old myths, but they also appear in contemporary writing. Lovecraft's friends like C.A. Smith and R.E. Howard contributed their share. So did Fritz Leiber, Michael Moorcock, Harlan Ellison, R.A. Wilson, Terry Pratchett, Neil Gaiman, Derek Landy, and Jonathan Stroud. For those of you who aren't familiar with Terry Pratchett, I would look into them. Maybe start with The Color of Magic. Some of their tales invoked the traditional squid-like monstrosities, tunnels, crypts, caverns, and otherworldly colossal ruins. Much more importantly, however, were the appearances of the Ancient Ones in guises that Lovecraft would never have recognized, allegedly. Moorcock wrote a wide range of simple heroic myths that inspired much of modern chaos magic, but far more important are his bedazzling Dancers at the End of Time trilogy. So I want to point out, one of the reasons that I'm even reading books like this is because they mention a lot of foundation and sources and things. All of these people's names, if you're curious, look into them. They might lead you somewhere. I'll read those names again. C.A. Smith, R.E. Howard, Fritz Leiber, Lieber, Michael Moorcock, Moorcock, Harlan Ellison, Harlan Ellison, R.A. Wilson, Terry, Terry, Pratchett, Pratchett, Neil Gaiman, Neilgaiman, Derek Landy, Landy, and Jonathan Stroud, Stroud. Moorcock wrote a wide range of simple heroic myths that inspired much of modern chaos magic, but far more important are his bedazzling Dancers at the End of Time trilogy, and the identity-changing, continuously reborn, and redefined characters and settings of the Jerry Cornelius novels. Ellison's Deathbird stories provided a Necronomicon for urban life. In our correspondence, Kenneth Grant frequently recommended Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce as a superb nightside text. 6th of June 1998 EV, Era Voltaire. Those who expect tentacles and goo will be disappointed. What Finnegan's Wake ensures is a thorough disruption of the ordinary mechanisms of thinking and rationalizing, a systemic dearrangement of the senses. Okay. In the visual realm, we have brilliant movies like Onmyoji, Onmyoji, and Ashura, Ashura, directed by Yojiro Takata. I don't know Japanese either. I apologize. Yojiro Takita. I'm gonna go with Yojiro Takata, but maybe I don't know. And highly inspiring Spirited Away, Howl's Howls, Moving Castle, and Princess Mononoke, which I've heard about but have not looked into yet. Mononoke by Hayao Miyazaki. Hayao. Green Snake by Tsui Hark, Tsui, starring Maggie Cheung, Cheun, and Joey Wong, offers a wonderful glimpse of life for serpent spirits on planet Idiot. So that I may have seen, perhaps not. Mary Kummels, Ku with an umlaut, Mmels, Malpertuis, Malpertuis, is a movie where the house itself is the ancient one, housing gods and humans in its interior. If you wish to explore the ancient one of reason and insanity, see I'm a Cyborg, but that's okay, by Park Chan-wook, CHAN''WOOK. Many of these films are unusual. Some are slightly demanding. All of them contain essential magical material, and none of them happens to be a horror movie. This list could be extended indefinitely. And I'm sure you will. Extend it indefinitely, I'm imagining. Well then, we had the ancient ones of death, fear, rot, and cosmic weirdness. They can pack their tentacles and slime glands now, stow away their multiple genitals, assorted horns, orifices, and protuberances, and have a drink at the bar. Let's move to ancient ones that are less easy to recognize, mainly as they are so amazingly familiar. And this is another reason that I like to cover material like this, is because it makes us look outside of the box. A lot of us got into this to get out of the box, and we jumped from one box right into another. Left-handedism, occultism, Satanism, Luciferianism, the list goes on and on and on and on. But the idea is to evolve most of the time. Most of us are here because we want the adversity to evolve. And if you're still in a box, you're comfortable to some degree. If you are trying to break out of the garden that you were planted in, don't allow yourself to be in some comfortable, secluded place. That's another garden. Moving on. One of them is the human ego, the sense of identification with the body-mind complex. A la Descartes, many would say. Kenneth Grant repeatedly commented on the matter. The notion of identity entertained by humans with respect to their minds and bodies is a figment entirely of imagination. The great old ones express one consciousness in plurality of form and attributes. In this sense, they are unity uttermost showed. It is easy to trace their lineage to one source, irrespective of elemental or other attributions, and like a vast shadow thrown upon the sky, it appears for us to see how we can trace our myriad thoughts to the one self that perpetually recreates the whole phantasmagoria of land, sea, earth, sky, and human beings, including the one we imagine ourselves to be. Remember, I think Goethe said something like, names are but fire and smoke and obscure the heavens. So, try not to get too defined there, pal. All right. Alrighty. In this sense, Cthulhu is the hideous monstrosity named ego. When it, of course, calm down. Cthulhu is so much more than just the ego. But the ego is also more than you think it is, so. All right. When it is awakened, i.e. unmasked, it will dissolve in mist, in the radiance of pure consciousness. Like us, it is sleeping, and its dreams are hell. Letter of the 6th September, 94. EV. Irrevocable. I think it is a mistake to regard ego as ego as entity, when it is merely the mistaken identification of the body-mind complex with the self, which in itself is not. The Chinese sage sums the situation succinctly. The being of true being is non-being. All our troubles arise from mistaken identity. There are no others. They are as phantasmal as the ego itself. With the dissolution of the I concept, the true I is laid bare. The concept of an ego is likewise dissolved by constant inquiry into its apparent source. More than this is hardly capable of verbalization, because the subject pertains to noumenality, that's noumenality, whereas ego, gods, goddesses, and others are rigorously phenomenal, mere appearances, products of the delusive dreams of Maya. A Magic Shadow. 22nd of February, 01, Era Vulgaire, which for those of you who don't know relates to the new Aeon of Crowley and all of that fun stuff. But ego is by no means limited to human beings. Every life form experiences some sort of identity. Remember, ego is I. It moves towards certain things and tries to avoid others. There is identity consciousness in animals, plants, fungi, and smaller entities, or fungi. If we were more sensitive, we would recognize it in water and stone, and air and earth, fire and lightning, and anything that exists. Remember that we all are family. The beasts and trees, the stone and wind, we all descend from the same source. Okay, the ego is one of the eldest ancient ones, and also one of the most flexible. For a start, the sense of identification is very fluid. It can be focused on a single person, on a partnership, a family, a group, or even something totally absurd like a culture or a nationality. Cultures aren't necessarily absurd, but they sort of are. Your ego can extend to your friends, your pets, your car, or the place where you live. It can include physical territory, like your home, or ideological territory, like a faith, a worldview, or a set of ideals. The size of the ego can change anytime. At the moment, your sense of identification includes your body, potentially. Your hair is part of yourself, but when it grows too long, you cut it. Or you stop. The bits that come off cease to be you. You no longer identify with them. And if you lost your hair entirely, you would still continue being you. There's a meditation where you chop off your feet and ask yourself, like, who am I? And you say, I am what remains. And then your legs, and then your arms, and then your head, and you're still there. You would merely adjust the definition of what you identify with. When you fall in love, you extend your ego to another person and to the friends of your partner. Sometimes. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we don't extend it to the family and the friends. But sometimes we do. Should your relationship fail, your identification will shrink. In a paradoxical way, people who are supposed to have a big ego, an exaggerated sense of self-importance, actually have tiny egos, as their identification with the world extends only a very short distance. Likewise, a truly huge ego would include so many people, beings, and places that personal interest would fade in favor of group interest. The ego is not necessarily something bad. Exactly. The sense of I is crucial. That's one of the biggest mistakes. I'll digress here a little bit. one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making, and the reason I say it's a mistake is because they're doing it and either nothing is changing for them or things are getting worse. And I've mentioned this in other videos, but I'm going to mention again. If you are trying to get rid of your ego, you are fighting an uphill battle. The ego isn't the enemy. The ego is a vessel for your will. And if you are trying to banish your ego, the only thing that you are really doing is you're either attempting to sever the link between, you might say, heaven and hell, or between here, your spirit and earth. You're either severing that link or you're putting something in the way. You're blocking it. You're deterring it. The other thing that people do is constantly banishing negativity. Stop banishing negativity all the time. Instead, banish harmful energy, harmful intent, harmful forces. Negativity is not all bad. There's yin and yang. One of my candles just sizzled right when I said that. Not all negativity is bad. Okay, also, the ego, not all bad. The ego is not necessarily something bad. The sense of I is crucial if we want to survive on planet Earth. But it is also responsible for most of the problems we experience. Without a firm distinction between me and you, between mine and yours, a lot of damn stupid games would cease to matter. Anger, ignorance, jealousy, greed, pride, hate, loathing, the list is long. And I do hope you give this some serious thinking, for this is all about you and me and all of us. Another ancient one is music. Man, tell me about it. Music was invented before our ancestors became Homo sapiens sapiens. According to excavator Dietrich Mania, Dietrich Mania, the Homo erectus group who left a camp at Bilzingsleben, 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 Germany, don't know Germany, seems to have created a round dance by pounding or dancing bone and stone fragments into the ground and surrounded the space with an assortment of skulls. Kuckenberg, 2000, 27-28. It's the earliest sacred space, or discotheque, in human history discovered so far. And that's an interesting question of digression, or question toward a point of digression, as well as the idea of music. Coming from a shamanic standpoint, I always felt like music and rhythm itself, the first type of music was probably the beating of a stick on the ground to guide people in a shamanic trance, or perhaps something very similar. But in my experience, in my mind, in my opinion, music is very, very heavily tied to the spirit. And that's one reason why music moves the spirit and the soul. I don't think that it was for entertainment. And this is obvious to a lot of you, but to some people, music is purely an art. It's purely a science, and it's not it's not a sense, I guess, so to speak. Which it isn't in the traditional sense of things, but music is absolutely a way to link heaven to earth, so to speak, or hell to earth. And if you're not using something like rhythm to help you get into trance, and you're having trouble getting into trance, you might try. The erecti, by the way, were already a long way from crude ape men. They had clothes, presumably wore shoes, lived in tents, and had a work division in their camp. That was a jolly 350,000 years ago. Or think of the much younger Neanderthal people. Whether these dates are right, who knows? The idea is it's been a long fucking time. And we think of our ancestors as more ignorant than they were. Or think of the much younger Neanderthal people. At the time being, The earliest surviving musical instrument is a flute made from a bear bone. It was discovered in a former Yugoslavia by excavator Ivan Turk and comes from a geological layer between 67,000 to 43,000 BCE. When the Balkan was inhabited by Neanderthals, our direct ancestors, the Cro-Magnon type of Homo sapiens, were not around yet. This flute was anything but an early effort. As far as can be reconstructed, the scale is diatonic. A similar but more fragmentary flute was unearthed in the cave of Hawa Vatea in Libya, Hauafteah. It was dated around 45,000 BCE. Around 30,000 BCE, Geisenkloster cave in Blauburen near Ulm. Jeez, do you guys really want me to spell that? Geissenklo with an umlaut, Sterle cave, and Blauburen near Ulm. Alright, there you go, everyone. Our direct ancestors were busy making very high-pitched flutes from the leg bones of cranes and water birds. Kuckenberg, 1999, 324 to 326. Hence, music is an ancient one, a force and a sentience, a state of rapture and transcendence that can change awareness and manipulate behavior. Arch-magician Terry Pratchett gave a magnificent treatment in his topic in Soul Music. Alright, might want to look into that. When Nima, N-E-M-A, began to explore the mysteries of Ma'at magic, M-A-A-T, she encountered a bunch of ancient ones that had not been given much attention. She termed them the Forgotten Ones. In her visions, she met a forgotten one of hunger. Now we're getting there. A forgotten one of chance and chaotic creativity. Another for absent-minded deletion. A forgotten one of fighting. And a forgotten one who coordinates the other forgotten ones. You can explore them in her book of the Forgotten Ones. Where Lovecraft channeled visions of trans-terrestrial alienness, Nema channeled the very survival instincts that accompany us in our evolution, from simple cell clusters to wise-ass beings who assume they know it all. Man, we're getting there. Break through the boundaries. You don't have to use the same names. You don't have to use the same symbols. The symbols are just symbols. How about the ancient one that maintains time and space? I'm sure you noticed, one occasion or another, that time is a subjective phenomenon. We might take time as we move along. No doubt you can recall occasions when the time seemed to rush, and others when it tottered along with zero acceleration. Well, in all likeliness, it wasn't the outside world, which suddenly changed speed. It was your perception and the way you coded and measured duration. When your inner processes, such as thinking, perceiving, etc., speed up, the outside world slows down. When your inner processes slow down, the outside world goes whizzing by. In trance, you can easily explore both. Small children are so much faster than adults that their day is an action-packed adventure that seems to last forever. Old people often complain that the world is much too fast for them. All of this happens in the mind and can be changed. A practical approach can be found in Richard Bandler's Time for a Change. There you go, there's another suggestion. The baby has no sense of time. Yeah, man. The foundation of experience is simply here and now. It learns to measure and make up time as it grows up. First, it can only do a few minutes, then it comprehends days, later months, and years become thinkable. Timelines are designed, models of past, present, and future, for one's own life, for history, for special events. The same goes for space. A newly born baby does not perceive distance. The trees at the horizons are just as close as its strangely wriggling fingers. Adults do not move away, nor do they come closer. Instead, they shrink and grow. A person who looks around the corner is not behind something, but simply disappears partially. Space and time are learned. We learn them and we maintain them unless we are under the effects of drugs or our own brain chemistry. Call them a set of reality filters. Much of consciousness changing comes from learning to manipulate your reality filters and enjoying it. When Lovecraft associated the night side with non-linear perception and non-Euclidean geometries with multiple perspectives and gaps in the flow of time, he was referring to the Ancient One that maintains or destroys the parameters of our time-space totality. Or he was simply remembering what it was like when he was freshly born. But now, you will have noticed that a good many of the Ancient Ones are by no means visible or confined to the realms of darkness and macabre grandeur. A lot even changed their costume and became deities. Remember how the old myths went? First we have the Twilight and Dawn Ages, when terrible giants, monsters, and titans run the show. Then arises family or tribe deities. Usually they are the descendants of the earlier generation, who kill several of their terrible relations and banish others. The Ancient Ones were driven into the nooks and crannies of known reality, into the depths under the earth, outside the Middle Earth, beyond the coils of the world surrounding the Midgard serpent, and to the stars. The others didn't go that far. You can find them looking under your bed. Then the gods washed off the snot and gore, had a haircut and a manicure, put on decent clothes, installed laws and customs, and pretended that they have always been paragons of civilization. A god appears when you narrow the scope of an Ancient One, delete their wilder bits, and give it a respectable and socially acceptable job. Give it a task, some myths, a temple, and a lot of sniveling worshippers, and it will soon forget the chaotic wilderness that was its former home. Just as the day side is a selection from the night side, a deity is a selection from an Ancient One. That's one way to think about it. Alright, one more paragraph here and then we'll close this video. Here's one charming example. Meet one of the most formidable Ancient Ones. In ancient Greece, the goddess Aphrodite was in charge of love and lust. Few are aware that Aphrodite is one of the most fear-inspiring deities in the Greek pantheon. The goddess of love could bring almost every deity under her control. She could turn people and gods into addicts, fools, or miserable wrecks. Love is a power that can take the whole personality apart and reconstruct it from scratch. In a consequence, seductive Aphrodite acquired a range of titles, which demonstrate and elaborate her terrifying and dark nature. The smiling goddess, born out of foam, salt water, and the blood and sperm of fighting gods and titans, Hesiod, at the beginning of time, can be a friend, lover, and slayer. As Aphrodite Androphonos, she is the killer of humans. Aphrodite Epitimbia is the Aphrodite of the graves. Aphrodite Timborokos, the grave robber, can return the dead to the world of the living. Aphrodite Scotia is the Dark One, and Aphrodite Melaenis, the Black Aphrodite. The titles hint at a deity who wields power over all who live and die for love. She rules not only proud duelists and pining maidens, but also anyone who gives everything for friends, children, other people, or even ideals. Humans can love pretty much anything. They can love people, pets, cars, objects, status, concepts, and pieces of the scenery. It's just a question of self-recognition and the other, and a bit of identification. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope you all have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week. Thanks for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them below, and I will hopefully catch you in the next one. Thanks.